Did you know there's only 26 sleeps until Santa arrives? Well, I have to say it's not something that would have been on my radar because unfortunately we're all too old in my house for me to pay attention. I do know that that's the case because Mary Lou MacDonald, the Sinn Féin president, told the Taoiseach yesterday that there were 27 sleeps until Santa arrives. The point she was making was that this puts pressure on a lot of parents who have to borrow money coming up to Christmas, and in some circumstances they'll resort to borrowing from moneylenders. Many times these are unlicensed moneylenders who charge huge amounts in interest. And then there's the licensed moneylenders, and this is the issue that has caught a lot of attention as raised in the Dáil yesterday by Mary Lou MacDonald, because she made reference to the 39th licensed moneylender in this country. The central bank has given a licence to Amigo Loans to lend money out to people at a rate of up to 49%. She referenced a study by UCC which has suggested that there should be a cap put on these interest rates, and the Taoiseach has said that this will be considered. Let's talk about this now with Sinn Féin's spokesperson on finance in Shannon Earn, Senator Rose Conway-Walsh. A very good morning to you and thanks for joining us.
Morning, Michael.
I'm not sure if this came as a surprise to you, but that's an interest rate that would seem to be beyond belief. 49%, almost 50%.
I think what's difficult about it is the fact that the central bank seem to be out of touch with what's happening, and obviously the Department of Finance. So the fact that they got approved, so they got granted the licence, I think has focused attention on it again. And obviously because it's this time of year, and it's a time of year that families are under severe pressure with the extra expenditure of Christmas.
And they give this money out to people who can't get loans from anywhere else. I mean, that's the objective of a company like this.
Well, the objective of them is obviously with the rates they're charging, 49.5%, is to maximise their profits. And now they have been allowed in here. It's not to help out families. Families who are in difficulty at this time of the year. I think what the central bank should be doing is pointing those families towards the credit unions. The credit unions have served this country really well and has served many families up and down this country. They have different rates. They have, they're personally known, they're embedded within their communities, and they have different rates they can charge. And I think what's difficult as well is that, obviously we don't have a cap in this country. We have a cap for credit unions, which allows them to charge no more than 1% per month. But we don't have a cap for anybody else. And that's why in 2013, we in the Sinn Féin party brought forward the bill to cap the rates. But that was declined by government. In fairness, it was supported by Fianna Fáil. But we will be relaunching that. But it made no sense at the time, even in 2013, for the government not to accept that.
These people just hand out money. €10,000 within 24 hours, no guarantor, no credit scores.
They hand it out, but then when they want to get it back, we know that interest rates, they can charge interest rates of up to 187%. And then when you add on all the collection charges and everything with that, there's extortionate rates. But 49.5% is extortionate in itself. If you're looking at a loan of, say, €5,000 over 5 years, with a credit union you would pay back something, I think, like €500-600 in interest. But with the likes of Amigo Loans, you're looking at charges of over €3,000. And this is money that people...
And they'll offer these loans to people who have bad credit, and as a result of that may not be able to get a loan from a credit union.
That's right. You're right, Michael. But within the credit union, even in itself, they have like the PNC loans, the people who don't have a good credit record, that they can work with them in building up their credit reputation, if you like. And we have to remember, coming through the recession here, there are many people who are in a bad place in terms of their credit worthiness. Through no fault of their own, many people lost their jobs. And again, it goes back to the banks. The banks being bailed out for 67 billion at the time, that had an impact and a very, very severe impact on Irish society and on many of those families who find themselves in the position now that if they want to borrow money, that they cannot borrow it through a main lender. I think it's a major mistake of the central bank. And it really is. I mean, we've had enough of the vulture funds, over the last months, and we'll see that working itself through again in the coming months.
But how do you determine whether it is or not? Is it the business of politicians to make conclusions of that sort? Is it the business of Sinn Féin or Fine Gael, for that matter? I mean, the Taoiseach was saying yesterday we've an independent system of regulation for reasons that all of us are acutely aware of in this country, those of us who've lived through the crash, and the central bank is the regulator.
Central bank is the regulator, but I mean, we have to remember, like the vulture funds, they have it in and out through the Department of Finance all of the time. They refuse to come before the Finance Committee. And I think that is desperately wrong. But they do that because they have a close relationship with government. But the government are there to protect citizens, and they need to protect them in this instance as well.
The central bank doesn't come before the Finance Committee?
Oh, the central bank certainly does.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But not the vulture fund.
Oh, right, okay.
And I know this will be a topic that obviously we will be raising within the Finance Committee again. But immediately what we will be doing is relaunching the legislation that we tried to bring forward in 2013 to protect the most vulnerable citizens in our society that will be affected by this. And we have to remember, Michael, as well, we have all of this in terms of, the country is doing so well, we have such high employment and all that. But if you ask Vincent de Paul or you ask the Capuchin centres or any of those centres that are trying to pick up the slack where people are being pushed more and more into poverty, and that just doesn't mean people who don't have a job. It means people who have a job but don't have enough to meet their everyday expenses, whether that be their high rents, their high mortgages, or just the general cost of living. We have on average here 25% higher cost of living than other European countries. So you have all of these people that are working, many of them day and night, but still don't have enough to pay the bills. And if they haven't, on top of that, if they don't have a credit rating or a proper credit worthiness, then they find themselves in a situation where they're vulnerable to the likes.
Well, that's the thing. It's the people who can least afford to take out these loans who are applying and getting these loans, because if you could get a loan anywhere else, and if you were looking to borrow money, I'm sure you'd go anywhere else than Amigo Loans or these other 39 moneylenders who are charging these rates. We have to stress that they're not doing anything wrong. They are licensed by the central bank and they're perfectly legal and legitimate. What about the decision that these people who take out the loans, who can't afford to take out the loans, are making? Are they not entitled to make that choice, even if it's the wrong choice? If it's their choice, are they not entitled to make that choice?
Of course they're entitled to make the choice, but I think they don't always have full information on terms of what they have to pay back, and somebody to sit down with them and to work out exactly what it'll mean. Now, they say in these instances as well where they're regulated that you can have, or that you need to have a guarantor. So it actually may mean that you end up with two families in difficulty because, again, the guarantors may not have the full information. And that's the difference, Michael, between going in and sitting down with your credit union and getting the full information, talking to another human being face to face. This is what it will mean for you. Looking out, can you afford this? Can you afford it over the coming months? How much can you afford? And this is the way that we can work with you. It's a whole different ball game when you're dealing with money lenders on this scale.
All right, we have to leave it there because we're over time, but thank you indeed for your time and for joining us on the programme today. Senator Rose Conway-Walsh is Sinn Féin's spokesperson on finance in Shannon.